The observation deck was designed for grandeur, not intimacy. Expansive windows stretched across the hull, showing the galaxy spilling past like a river of stars. Kieran Hale walked its polished floors, boots clicking softly. Nights were quiet by design, crew rested, passengers slept, and the ship hummed a low, steady song of engines and life support. Tonight, he thought, would be mercifully dull. He paused. A figure stood at the far viewport. Blue skin. Not the alarming kind that meant oxygen deprivation. No, this was natural. Almost serene. The figure's long hair shimmered like spun silver, catching the faint starlight. And the ears, long, tapered, unconcealed. Not ceremonial. Not diplomatic. Casual. Kieran stopped so suddenly the floor sensors squeaked. He cleared his throat. Deck's closed at this hour. I'll come back later. The figure turned slightly. Her voice was quiet, almost lost beneath the ship's hum. No one sees me like this. Kieran froze. She wasn't angry. She wasn't embarrassed. She simply existed, unshielded, unadorned. I can leave, he said, unsure if protocol allowed such hesitance. If you do, she said, I'll wonder why I stopped you. Kieran's pulse picked up. My internal risk assessment. Screaming, he muttered. Mine has been screaming for hours, she replied. It's tired. He stepped closer, unable to help himself. She observed the stars again, reflection faint in the viewport. I'm Kieran, he said. Security officer, professional, boring. Lyra, she said. Envoy, professional, everything else. And just like that, the quiet night patrol became something entirely different. Over the next nights, Kieran found himself adjusting his patrols. Lyra was there again, sometimes seated cross-legged, sometimes standing. The stars slid past endlessly, FTL arcs stretching light into ribbons, but the human's mind focused only on her. Patterns are overrated, Lyra said one night, watching a gas giant drift past. They lead to predictability. Kieran smirked. Predictability nearly killed me once. She laughed, a soft, musical sound that made the observation deck feel smaller, warmer. He learned quickly. Standing still here was a mistake. His brain catalogued everything, the hum of the gravity field, the scent of the recycled air, the subtle movements of her ears that signaled thought. I don't usually come here, Lyra admitted one evening. Every corridor has eyes. Even the walls listen. Maintenance AI, Kieran said. It gossips. Only about coolant flow. Machines listen better than people, she said. He nodded. Somehow, that felt like the truth. Their exchanges became routine in an irregular way. Kieran would arrive. Lyra would be there. No touching, no ceremonies, just presence. But that quiet was interrupted the fifth night. The ship lurched. Not violently, but enough to remind everyone aboard that faster-than-light travel still argued with physics. Lights flickered, then dimmed to emergency amber. Alarms chimed, thrummed, then silenced themselves. Kieran ran, boots echoing through service corridors. He didn't need instructions. The observation deck offered the best view of disaster, and Lyra had a habit of facing things head-on. The viewport showed a warped void. Stars bent unnaturally, light fractured by a patch of unstable mass shadows. Outside, debris drifted in slow, deliberate chaos. Lyra was already there, bracing herself. Black shorts and simple top, ears angled back in concentration. Not afraid? Kieran asked. Fear is irrelevant, she said. Focus is preferable. He positioned himself beside her, tapping commands at the console. Gravity lace, he explained. Old debris, compressed mass echoes. Universe forgot to clean up. That sounds on brand, she replied, a small smile breaking the tension. The deck shuddered, throwing them slightly closer. Instinctively, Kieran steadied her wrist. Contact was light, practical, but it lingered just enough to be human. If we don't survive, Lyra said, voice soft, this will be a strange footnote in several diplomatic records. No one gets mad, Kieran countered. Security training logic. She laughed, brief and genuine. And for a fleeting moment, everything else, protocols, emergencies, bureaucracies, fell away. The ship slowly stabilized. Stars returned, scattered and sharp. Systems normalized. Emergency lights dimmed. The universe, it seemed, allowed them a pause. "You stayed," Lyra said. "I didn't run," he replied. Her smile, small and crooked, held weight heavier than the alarms that had just sounded. Moments of danger revealed bonds humans and aliens alike rarely acknowledged. By the sixth night, Kieran no longer measured every move against protocol. He understood boundaries, yes, but also learned when rules were mere habits pretending to be law. "You're different when you're not performing," Lyra observed. "I am too. That's dangerous." "Emotionally, politically, or physically?" Kieran asked. "All of the above," she replied calmly. They laughed softly, sharing a rare space of trust and honesty. Outside, stars slid past in endless arcs, but inside, the human and the alien shared a microcosm of reality where choice mattered more than rules. Days later, Lyra's assignment ended. New envoys would take over, negotiations would continue, and Kieran's patrols would return to mundane routine. But endings, he realized, were rarely abrupt. They were a series of precise movements, shadows, words, shared breaths. "You were a witness," she said. "I stayed," he replied. "And stopped hiding," she added. They clasped hands briefly. No alarms. No drones. The universe allowed the moment. It was not an ending. It was a stable orbit, a moment of trust and recognition suspended in the vast, indifferent galaxy. Docking procedures began. Lights outside grew brighter, welcoming them to a station full of unknown, ordinary futures. Together, they stepped forward, no longer accidental, no longer unguarded, but deliberately seen. Jace, Meridian and Vera stepped off the ship's gangway together. The station sprawled like a city frozen in motion, its sleek architecture curving upward toward artificial sunlight that filtered through translucent panels overhead. The hum of machinery and distant footfalls filled the air. He noted the subtle differences between the controlled environment of the ship and the station's slightly chaotic rhythm. Here, gravity fluctuations were minor, but human and alien alike moved with a faint uncertainty, as if always adjusting to a world that didn't entirely belong to them. Vera's steps were light, deliberate, confident. She didn't wear her diplomatic robes, instead, a simple tunic and fitted pants suggested authority without demanding attention. Her long ears tilted subtly as she surveyed the station. The corners of her eyes flicked toward maintenance corridors, security drones, and observation decks with a practiced awareness that reminded Jace of why she was an envoy. Yet, now, she was herself, less polished, more human in a way that made him aware of his own cautious observation. "This station is large," Jace said, breaking the silence. Vera glanced at him, a slight smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. "Large enough that the correct corridor will always elude you at least twice before you reach it." She inclined her head toward a distant docking bay. "We go there first." He followed, noting how her confidence seemed to bend the flow of the crowd. People moved around them, some casting curious glances at the unusual pairing of human and blue-skinned envoy, but few dared intervene. Diplomacy, Jace realized, often worked best when it was subtle. The docking bay was quiet. A new ship, smaller than theirs but sleek in its design, was prepped for departure. Its hull reflected the station lights like a pool of liquid silver. Jace instinctively scanned for anomalies, but the station seemed calm. Too calm. His training whispered warnings that Vera didn't share, warnings that sometimes the quiet carried danger. "Where are we going?" he asked. "To meet someone," Vera said simply. Her tone held no hesitation, only certainty. "Someone who needs to understand a choice made without permission." They walked down a narrow corridor lined with observation windows showing the void outside. Starfield streamed past, bending in subtle arcs as if the station itself had a heartbeat. Jace's own heartbeat felt faster, not from the pace of walking, but from anticipation. He didn't fully understand what Vera meant, but the weight in her voice suggested that whatever awaited them was more than simple protocol. The smaller ship's cabin was dimly lit, only illuminated by soft panels on the walls. Sitting in the center was a figure whose presence radiated authority. A tall alien male, with silver-toned skin and eyes that glimmered with intelligence, studied them both. He rose as they entered. "Vera," he said, voice smooth, precise. "I did not expect you to return so quickly." Vera inclined her head slightly. "Expectations are often misleading, Ambassador Thale. We return because some choices cannot wait for approval." Thale's gaze swept over Jace, lingering a fraction longer than protocol would suggest. He was evaluating, calculating. "And you, human," he said finally. "You survived the voyage. That is notable." Jace shifted slightly, hand resting on the edge of a control panel. "I'm good at surviving." Vera's lips curved in a small, almost mischievous smile. "He is more than good, Thale. He sees more than most." Thale considered this, the lines of his face tightening as if weighing the truth in her words. Then, he gestured toward a console beside the cabin's window. "The region we traverse next is unstable. Gravity spikes, mass shadows. Not all who travel here make it through unscathed. You were wise to bring him." Jace blinked. "I wasn't brought. I followed." Vera's eyes met his, a flash of amusement and warmth. "I'm glad you did." The moment passed quickly. Thale's attention shifted to a display panel, projecting a holographic map of the surrounding starfield. Streams of data twisted in 3 dimensions, showing currents of mass energy, drift trajectories, and regions of potential collapse. "Our path requires care. The next leg of the journey will test more than shields. It will test judgment, coordination, and trust." Jace leaned forward, examining the display. The patterns looked chaotic, but Vera's calm demeanor suggested she understood every ripple and fold. "How dangerous are we talking?" he asked. "Potentially fatal," Thale said simply. "But predictable in ways that allow preparation. We hope." Vera glanced at Jace, her expression unreadable. "This is where choice matters. Observation alone is not enough." Jace swallowed. The words hung heavy between them. On the ship, observation was enough. Here, in the thin line between station and open space, it was not. The smaller ship detached from the docking bay. Its engines thrummed quietly, a soft vibration beneath their feet. Jace noticed the subtle differences immediately. The lack of gravity dampeners in certain corridors, the more sensitive hull plating, the near imperceptible hum of faster-than-light systems preparing for a jump. Everything was precise, deliberate, and tense. As they moved through the cabin, Vera explained in low tones. "Thale trusts few. Protocol dictates more, but survival requires less. He will test both of us. The question is which of us he will trust first." Jace nodded. He wasn't sure if the question applied to him, Vera, or both. The engines hummed louder, and a flicker of light passed over the viewport. Outside, space twisted into complex geometries. Stars bent unnaturally, shadows stretched and collapsed in impossible angles. Jace's stomach tightened. He knew this wasn't a simulation. He had felt the subtle pull of gravitational distortion before. Vera reached for his hand. Light, deliberate, grounding. "Focus on the center of the path," she said. "Do not anticipate collapse. Move with it, not against it." He followed her advice instinctively, as if some muscle memory from the ship's patrols guided him. The ship lurched as it entered a field of unstable stellar debris. Outside, massive fragments of rock and metal twisted around unseen forces. The smaller ship rocked, gravity surges pressing them to the floor and then releasing. Jace caught Vera instinctively, his arm bracing against her back during one surge. Her ears twitched, a subtle signal of acknowledgement. Neither spoke. The chaos outside required silence, focus, and trust. The first major spike hit. Alarms sounded, but muted, as if the ship itself was calculating risks rather than signaling danger. The floor vibrated. Panels rattled. Jace's body reacted before his mind fully understood, moving to compensate for the artificial gravity shifts. Vera's presence beside him grounded him. Her calm breathing, the subtle shifts of her weight, the occasional flick of her ears, all communicated readiness without fear. Jace realized he had never seen someone navigate chaos with such serenity. Not by protocol, not by training, by instinct, by choice. They moved through the ship's narrow corridors, adjusting course as gravity pulses shifted unpredictably. The walls groaned, lights flickered, and the hum of the engines became a deep vibration through the hull. Outside, the field of mass shadows grew denser, and Jace felt the pull of momentum as if space itself were reaching for them. "This is," Jace began, but Vera shook her head. "Not the time for words," she said. Her voice was calm, almost melodic over the intercom. "Action, observation, trust. Repeat." He followed, adjusting a gravity stabilizer at her instruction, then recalibrating a minor course offset as mass fragments collided at distant trajectories. The work was precise, exhausting, and terrifying. Yet, each time he looked at Vera, he felt a strange calm. She had chosen this path, and by her side, he could follow. Minutes stretched like hours. Each pulse of gravity brought new adjustments, new calculations. The small ship groaned, systems flashing in warning and reassurance. And all the while, outside, the stars curved and twisted as if the galaxy itself were testing their resolve. Finally, the surge passed. The ship's hull shuddered one last time, then stabilized. Outside, space returned to expected geometry. Stars regained straight trails. The debris field continued its silent orbit, indifferent to the travelers who had survived its chaos. Jace exhaled, feeling tension drain from his muscles. Vera released his hand, but her gaze lingered on him. "You see," she said softly, "it's not only survival that defines strength. It's presence. Observation without abandonment." He nodded. "I've learned that now." Thale appeared beside them. "You both performed admirably," he said. "Few could navigate that field with such coordination. Fewer still would survive the political consequences afterward." Jace glanced at Vera. Her ears twitched in acknowledgement, a small, private smile forming. They had survived. Not by strength alone, not by protocol, but by choice. By trust. By observing, reacting, and deciding together. The station lights ahead grew brighter as the smaller ship approached the outer docking bay. Another world waited, another negotiation, another protocol. But Jace no longer felt the same rigid duty. He had learned that rules were tools, not prisons. That trust could guide as reliably as any manual or AI. As they docked, Vera turned to him. "You stayed," she said, her voice carrying the same weight as before. "You did not abandon presence." "I did not," he replied, smiling. "And I will not when the path is uncertain." Her smile widened slightly, softer this time. "Then you understand. This is how we survive, not through fear, not through obedience, but through deliberate choice. And trust." The docking clamps engaged with a muted thud. Outside, the station thrummed with ordinary life, indifferent to the extraordinary decisions made within its walls. Jace and Vera stepped from the ship, side by side. Their hands brushed lightly, a silent acknowledgement of the bond forged under chaos. "Next leg?" Jace asked, voice casual but carrying the unspoken understanding of what they had endured. Vera inclined her head. "Always forward." And together, they entered the station, the weight of the universe at their backs, but the path ahead chosen, not by duty, not by law, but by presence, trust, and choice.